Hello, 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 everybody. This is Andrea Little Mason, Dr. Doula, and today I am here. Oh my goodness. This is one of the first women that I saw when I was expanding my horizon on Instagram. I said, who is this Dr. Midwife person? Dr. _ Midwife. Who is she? And she was absolutely crazy doing some live or something. And I said, what? And the first thing I saw was like, she's talking my language. She's saying the stuff I like. I was like, who is she? I think I was on one day before I was like, hello, I do a blog called Birth Her Story. I would love to interview you.
Oh, absolutely. I do love a good analogy. When you say crazy, I'm like, that sounds good.
And so she is here with us today, and I am so excited. I don't know her personally. I've only known of her for the month or so I've been on Instagram. And so now we're going to be exploring what I know of her together. But before I get started, I'm just going to let Miss Stephanie, Dr. Stephanie Mitchell, Dr. Stephanie Mitchell, Dr. Midwife Stephanie Mitchell.
You know, sometimes.
Yeah, I'm going to let her introduce herself and tell us who she is. Go ahead now.
Okay, so my name is Stephanie. I am a certified nurse midwife, but I practice on the doctorate level. So all that means is that after I got my midwifery education, my Master's of Science degree in nursing with a certification in midwifery, all that means is that I went on and did another tiny little extra step to help improve the practice of nursing. And by doing that, I received my doctorate degree. Mm-hmm. So I have a doctorate degree in nursing. I am a certified nurse midwife. And so that's just like a radical way to say, like, I'm a midwife. I'm going to take care of you in the best way I can.
It's just a radical way to say, oh my God, I'm amazing.
It's just a whole lot of, listen, mostly it's like an expensive bullshit way. And I am apologizing. Sometimes the words that I use can be a little spicy, and I'm working on that.
No, you're not. You are not working on it.
I'm not working on it.
Thank you.
Well, I said that yesterday, and I woke up this morning, and I was like, oh, I'm going to do that. And then I messed up already. So all of those things and letters and all of that, it's an expensive way that I found to interrupt the typical institutionalization of birth. It's unfortunate that this is the way that it is right now. But, you know, let's say a good 90+% of women who have labors and births, they're happening in these institutions and hospitals. And the easiest way to get at these tables to make changes are to get those stupid letters and degrees at these places, and they make it difficult. These are hurdles that you are not supposed to pass, but you do because you know that in order to make these kind of changes, you need to be at these tables. Mm-hmm. Don't care. Why do I do this? Everything. You just asked who I am.
See, didn't I warned you? And remember, I tell people all the time, I don't edit because I love all of this. All of this love.
But I'm frustrated about how much that it is fire in my soul that when people ask me what my name is or what do, you just ask me a simple question. I'm like, let me tell you about how terrible it is.
And that's why I wanted to talk to you, because I don't know what you were saying that day, but it was like something. And then you went off into this thing. And I was like, she's got a lot to say. Let me go.
It is. Sometimes I'm coming home from work and I'm like, what do I do? What do I do?
So because I want to hear that. And then this is other thing I got to ask you about. Okay. I don't know if you're going to tell me or tell us, but I'm going to ask. Okay. So I'm going to race. Okay. How did you get interested in birth? I mean, was it something that you were, some people are like, I was 7 and I told my big mama that I wanted to help be a baby doctor. I wanted to help mama.
It was almost as idyllic as that, but unfortunately less so. I would say I grew up in a bit of a unconventional home in terms of what was a typical, probably for my area. I was raised in a neighborhood that was at the height of the crack epidemic in Boston at the time. My father was affected by that. And so as a result was my mother and all of the siblings. There were 6 of us. And so that shaped the beginning of my normalcy, which was a very, very abnormal life. And what I saw as a child growing up in the 80s was a family on TV who for the first time showed to me what the hell normal was.
Yeah.
I was like, wait a minute.
Yes.
This is a Black mom and she's a lawyer, and this is a Black dad and he delivers babies? What is that? That's a thing? Is that a thing? And I feel really bad that, you know, those positive memories of my childhood, which really shaped my very first instinct on what birth was. I hate that it was marred by, you know, the scandal surrounding it. So I'm not even gonna, you know, it's Black American legacy to me.
Exactly. I agree with you.
And because of my poor probably education around healthy relationships and healthy sexuality, or really devoid of any education regarding the woman's body, you know, when my sister, she was younger than me, she got her period, bitch, she thought she was dying. She thought she was dying.
Oh.
And she was younger. And she's showing me, I'm like, yes, bitch, you dying. You dying for sure.
Oh my gosh.
Like, it was just like, you know, and she had been going through that for 3 days. And, you know, to be, and if I cry, that's just what the hell I do.
I appreciate you sharing it. Yeah.
It's life, you know, but I want to say that shaped the formative years of female body. And so subsequently, because being devoid of like this kind of education, because I'm gonna tell you, abstinence is, and not discussing it and thinking that we're not gonna do it, because also my mother raised us in a very, very, very conservative Christian household. We were Jehovah's Witnesses.
Mm-hmm.
And so there wasn't a lot of talk of sexuality or birth control and these types of things. It was more like, no, you just don't do it. You just don't have sex. Mm-hmm. You don't do it. Well, I sure the hell did. I sure did. and immediately found myself pregnant.
No!
Yes, at the age of 15, you know? And so my first personal experience in maternity and healthcare was as a teenage girl going there for prenatal care, you know. Now, and as I've lived my life and whatever, I realize what happened to me in that setting a little more clearly. Now that I'm a midwife and I've worked in the birth world for so long, I realize like, oh, actually that was violent. That was not right. I don't think that was part of the protocol.
Yeah.
So I must have been at my first visit. Now I'm thinking probably somewhere between like 18, 20 weeks, something like that. And physically, like, I know you don't need to do all the invasive pap smears. And I know that's not even the recommended science. I've never, you know, for someone who is not only like sexually naive, but also, you know, as their first exposure. So living that life, okay, as that person, and that my daughter now, she's about to be 21. my everything. But that was my first foray into the healthcare system in that side. I'm like, that's not what my program showed me. That's not what I saw growing up on TV. It's not supposed to be like that. And so I knew I was going to deliver babies. I knew that. Okay. But the part of it, of feeling like I'm not just going to deliver babies, it's more than this. It's a little bit more than this. Yeah. Was shaped at an early age. And so I found myself struggling really, really hard to, you know, education wise, it's like anyone who knows me all my life is like, damn, you've been in school forever. And that's right. I don't care if I started in a community college in Roxbury, and I took classes and I took classes and I took classes. And, you know, I lived in a shelter for a short period of time and had to get on commuter rails, buses, trains, drop my daughter off, get on the bus, go to Roxbury Community College, take my 1 class or 2 classes or whatever I could, come back, pick up my daughter, go back to the shelter. These are the things that I had to do. So these are my experiences living this existence. So I have a very kind of clear understanding of the different pieces that just your general population of Black women may experience.
Yeah.
I also have seen the other side, being a labor and delivery nurse, which that was a journey itself, even being able to be on that type of floor, which, I live in Boston. The labor and delivery nurses were not reflective. The obstetricians, the midwives were not reflective of the community in which they were serving. It wasn't reflective of the community in which the institution was. So that was my second foray. Like, why on a 120 nurse unit, there were 2 Black nurses?
Wow.
And then as I got to see, and I'm trying to make this really succinct, but these are all the reasons why I'm passionate about what I do and what I believe so strongly. It's because of these experiences. So when I worked on the labor and delivery floor for about 10 years. And some of the things that I saw were violent. And not overtly violent. Nobody's beating anyone on the head here. I need to be really clear.
Yes.
It's just when you are in an educational institution like this, the way it was built historically, what it was built on, the women they are serving are are dually patients, but they're also being practiced on, and, they're getting residence care, which I don't have anything wrong against that.
Yes.
But what I'm saying is it's doing harm. It's doing harm to Black women. It's doing harm. So that was my second foray. And then from that, you have to say, well, how do I disrupt this? What do I do?
I love that. Yeah.
What do you do? And for me, it was moving into midwifery. And I wanted more than anything to be a midwife at that hospital in my community. I know, and working there, as I finally got my BSN and worked there for many years, and they saw me going through school and were so supportive. And then when I needed a clinical assignment, I was unable to secure one. No one would precept me.
Really?
No one would precept me. We don't take students from Frontier University, they said. We never have. Okay, well, you never have. Would you consider figuring out what that would entail? Since I've been working here and I live in the community and I work, but from the 20 midwives that were on staff, well, none of them identified as women of color as far as I am concerned, except one who at the time she had moved away. To serve in an indigenous area, and another who doesn't consider herself as a person of color. So, anyway, I was unable to secure a preceptorship. So I was faced with a decision on how do I disrupt this when a system is clearly set up not wanting me to disrupt it.
Come on now.
How do I do that? Do you persist? Do you keep going? I did. I left my home in Boston and drove to Rhode Island 5 days out of the week to a site that had offered to precept me. And during this time, I kept my night job because, got to eat, right? Back at the place at the hospital that wouldn't precept me. Because what are you going to do?
Woo.
But let me tell you, so when people put obstacles in front of me, I look at them like, thank you. I appreciate that, because now I have got to figure out how to get around that. And I'm the boss of getting around it. You
are.
Okay? And I want, and not just me getting around it. Now that have an ability to be able to get in this space, I want to make sure that as a community, we're empowered to understand that no doesn't mean no, or no could mean that they say no, but we are finding ways around to disrupt a broken system.
Woo!
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So, anyway, I don't even know what your question was.
It doesn't matter, because I'm sitting here eating all this up, honey, and I love it. I was like, yep, this is who I first rolled up on when I first met her, talking about disrupting the system and what we needed to do. And I love that because everything that you're saying, you know, the pathways that we take to get to a certain place, they can inform people as much as, you know, or educate people as much as seeing you in that spot. You know, it's really important that people understand that we all come throughout different ways to get certain places, and the sacrifices that we're making. When people say, oh, I couldn't find anybody, you know, I couldn't find a preceptor. I see people say that all the time. And people are like, no.
I would have done anything.
No.
I would have done anything. I was going to go to Minnesota. I would have left. I would have done anything. Nobody was going to tell me no. You know what I'm saying?
And what was that drive for you?
That difficult.
But what was that drive for you that said, I will go wherever I have to? What was that for you?
Women, us, you know, Black women, we're dying.
Yeah. Yeah.
No one cares.
Yeah.
I see it's like we spout these statistics and we know it. And it's like, if we don't try to disrupt this, we're going to keep dying. We can't. We are moms. There's nothing that's saving us. Yeah. Serena,
yep.
Money, fame, notoriety, who you know, who you have your college degree. My doctorate degree doesn't mean shit. It doesn't mean nothing.
Not a thing. No.
I don't care. I'm exactly the same as any other Black woman. We're all in this lump sum, and no other population of people in the United States can say that. White people can educate their way out of risk. People who are rich can buy their way out of certain risk. Black women don't have that luxury.
That's right.
That's my drive. That's my drive, you know? I'm so mad.
I love your fire. And you know what's amazing about that? I spent most of my life in a space where I was very obviously a Black woman, but it was like, oh, we just, you know, I'm like, let's kumbaya, let's do whatever together. And I always say I love everybody, but this is what I call a state of emergency.
It is.
You know, this is a state of emergency. And so, you know, I find myself now, Black women. I'm just everything sounds Black women.
Yes.
You know, there's the space where, you know, and I think everybody serves a purpose. There's a space where there are those that are like, okay, I'm working on legislation. I'm going and I'm talking to our senators and our representatives, and I'm going and I'm doing this and that. And then there are those that are, you know, they're like you. They're like, I'm going to do this. You're willing to go different states, because this is something that I know I can do. And
that's what I'm saying. Like, there's people who are like, you know, there are people who are artists. What can you do? What can you do? What's your strength? What is yours? What is yours? What is yours? What is yours? Don't say you cannot. There's everything you could do. I have a friend who's a dental hygienist. She went through a very charming, we grew up together. She busted her behind. And now she's like, well, what can I do? No, you know your job. Yes. I don't know your job. What can you do? Our collective power can be wrangled and helped, and like, you know, everyone has what they can do, their voice, their power, you know, that's it. That's all you can do. I know that everyone finds out ways to impact change.
And I told someone when I was working on my doctorate, I was working on Black education, relationship education. And I found a person who's like, oh, I would love to work with you to chair your committee, blah, blah, blah. But she's a white woman. And at that time, the president at the time was pushing a lot of $10 million towards relationship education with the hopes that Black, you know, it was supposed to be to help Black couples, blah, blah, blah. So I asked her, I said, okay, because I'm, you know, I'm like, I just, you know, I think I'm less like this now. It's like, you know, I don't want anybody to get offended, but if I just focus on Black people, like,
the education system is messed up. It got us all thinking, like what? I'm asking. No.
Is it wrong and she told me, she was the one that told me, she said, I said, should I just focus on all relationships, or is it bad to focus on, you know, Black relationships? You
gotta approach it all in a weird way.
Yeah. And she said, listen, she said she was there were 10 regions where there were Black, it was split up into the United States into 10 regions. There were so few people talking about Black relationships from an educational academic standpoint, that she was over one of the regions. I'm talking about over there where on the East Coast where you got HBCUs. She was over one of those regions. Okay. And she says, listen, she says, you're right. If you just talk to Black people, then you will limit. There are going to be some people that shut you off right away. She said, but if you don't, then you cannot continue to complain about what people are saying about you, what they are saying is true and not true, and how they're approaching you.
Yes. If you don't change the narrative, if you don't dive into it and help and do it, that's your strength. You found it.
Exactly. And that's how I approach this as well. I have people that are like, oh, I want to, but you talk, are you just for Black? I work with everybody.
Everyone.
But this is a state of emergency. And this is what I know beyond anything else, Stephanie. It's like, look, if I were saying this is specifically for Native American women and we see something we want to address, when I see people doing that, I don't get upset because they see a problem and they're addressing it. Totally. I don't get upset when I see Latino women like, listen, we have to approach some things and we need people that are bilingual. We need people that are this. We need people that have cultural competency, understand certain stuff. No one gets upset. To me, it's the whole premise of getting upset about any of it.
About like human health and about wellness and about,
You said human, but see, that's the thing. You said human, and there's been a lot of focus on us as Black women being bastardized for various reasons. You don't know where you come from technically, and you look so different. Stephanie, are you mixed? Where are you?
That's just so much. It's so like, what is that? What is that?
What are you? Where are you from? Are you from here?
Like, what's this? What's that? I'm not happy. And I'm always happy to break it down to me. And I'm always happy to break it down. But to me, like when I face that, it's like an interesting thing. Like, okay, I have to either, explain my Blackness to white people, right? Well, actually, you have to like less do it for them because believe it or not, you know. So I'm always happy to explain, but the rationale of why these people are asking is always complex to me. And I love geography more than anything, and I love the study of ethnicity and everything else. So I think it's interesting.
Yes.
I still think it's interesting. And for the FYI, my father is Trinidadian, so he's from Trinidad, and his side of the family is from Venezuela, which Trinidad is on a small island off the coast of Venezuela, Venezuela, and Portugal.
Mm-hmm.
And the other side of the family is indigenous people from Trinidad. And the indigenous people from Trinidad, it looks like if all of the globe was together, that they would originate from India. Yeah. They have darker skin and straighter, less curly hair, and then so it's a very interesting dynamic of like culture and ethnicity in Trinidad. And then on my mom's side, she is half German and half Bayesian, and on the Bayesian side is Montserrat. Bayesian is Barbados, so West Indian. And then her mother's German because during that time, you got all during wartime, you have all the soldiers going over there. So my West Indian great-grandfather was like, goes and picks him up a German lady who can't speak English to this day. Well, she's passed away, long gone, but brings her to Roxbury in Black America, okay, and raised 6 half Black, half white children during that time. I'm like, and my mom, who's a natural like redhead, but has very I felt bad for her. What was that life even like? She's a lot of. I know for a fact, colorism and racism has traveled so many ways, but I feel really bad for that generation because I think they're more hurt by colorism than we are now.
Yeah.
I think that that generation is super damaged in terms of like the things that they thought were important, things that they taught their children.
Definitely.
About I remember my first perm, like it was, you know, like this glorious thing. My dad was not happy about that, but you know, it's interesting. We've come a long way. We've come a long way as Black women. But
and do you ever have, I know that some people that if they had the background, the family background that you did, they wouldn't just say, okay, I'm Black. Has that ever been a process for you, or are you just?
Well, I've never not thought that. I've never not thought that. So my dad, who's Black from Trinidad, he's dark complexion. He been putting that perm in his hair since then, whatever, to try to be that coolie Indian that he always thought that, you know how the West Indians, sometimes the Trinidadians and Jamaicans, like, get the perm out your hair. You've never been coolie ever. That was my dad. And my mom, who has color complex issues, but you see that even as a kid growing up, because my dad was super like cognizant of the fact of like colorism and racism for his children. They sent us to a suburban school through a METCO program. A METCO program was a desegregation initiative initially. And sorry, can you hear me?
Yes.
Jamie, can you be quiet? He talks so loud. Oh my God. Okay, sorry. I know this isn't edited, but y'all gotta know.
It's all good, girl. I'm just appreciating your time. Go ahead.
So when I went to this all-white school, which was initially was a desegregation program. So when you pull up to this all-white school, it doesn't matter how light you are, it doesn't matter how bright you are, it doesn't matter anything. You're one of those METCO children. You're one of the Black kids, and that was there was no. Yep. We were the Black kids. And that was my experience growing up, and it continued to be my experience. And I've always been very passionate about my own community, where I've lived my whole life, and you know the experiences of that I got to witness. My poor little mom, her whole life she was a mulatto. You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
She was a mulatto, and the complexes to this day that she has because of that. To this day, you know, when I try to talk to her about racism and how it affects healthcare and these types of things, and she's very adamant sometimes, like, it's not a race thing. I'm like, okay, well, actually it is. and these are the reasons why. Yeah, we have a real dysfunctional relationship.
Okay, so
I won't tell it.
So now I have, so I know, and I don't know what you're willing to share. Oh my God. No, because yesterday you on your IG Live, you were like, I'm going to roll it out eventually, blah, blah, blah. Girl, you went to Alabama.
Oh, yes.
And Alabama, honey, that's where my people from.
Yeah.
You had me all on the map. I'm like, ooh-wee.
Yes.
She's 20 miles away from where my family.
Really?
I was like, I saw your beautiful pictures. I just want that you could tell us, something about, I have such a, most of what I talk about, when I first heard you speaking, I heard you talking about, you know, that Black Southern midwife, the grand midwife from the South. I heard that was one of the first things, and that's when I said, oh, she's my people, because she's talking about this very important thing. And one of the things that my particular piece in this, and why I like to talk to you all who are like the midwives that are doing the work and others that are doing work in different ways, is there was a different type of culture before we integrated. I'm the first generation born in a hospital, and my family, because all of them, my mother included, they were born at home in Alabama.
Right.
One of them, whatever you were looking through, I was like, oh Lord, she down there looking at we have the house. Yeah, I want just whatever you can share about that, because I'm hoping that people, when you are ready to share what you know, some of your experiences, that you know, they will be able to you know, I know you'll give us your information, but oh my gosh, just tell me about that experience.
And it was really a very spiritual time for me. And it was really, I mean, it wasn't emotionally draining, but it was emotional to the point like where physically every cell in your body is like, you know, like it just was a little unreal, you know. And it always has been. I've been going to Alabama for the past 18 years.
And what's prompted you to do it? Is that where you have?
That's where my husband's from. That's where my kid's father's from. Yep. So I've been going up there. Well, see, when you say the town, and people like, nope, you got to go like 5 cities ahead.
Exactly.
So it's not Birmingham, okay? Yep. Not Livingston, but Gainesville, which is a really small town outside of Livingston is the next big city, but small. I mean, they just got, matter of fact, you look like the ex-mayor of Gainesville. Oh, I need to I'm going to show my, you do. You do.
I'm telling you, that's where my people from. And in my family, they didn't live, whenever I had to describe where they were, it was dirt roads when I was a younger girl. I think when I got in college, they paved them. But
yes. It was about like, I want to say maybe 10, 12 years. They just did that. Yep. They just did that.
The street didn't have a name back when it didn't have a name.
No.
You just had to know you go past that junction, that fort, and then 2 more roads, you're going to make a right. Don't miss it now.
Yes, that's exactly what it is. To this day, like I love maps. I love geography. I will go on Google Maps. If I'm looking to study an area, I get down on the 3D level. I look at the surrounding roads. I drive down it. And these are things that I do for fun, okay?
Yes.
So my love of maps and geography and those type of things, as it became more available, I've been down on the land because my husband's family and my husband himself owns a lot of land down there.
Love it.
And so I've been down on that land virtually. There are some areas where you can't get onto the land. You can only see from like as a map. Above.
Area view, yeah.
And so there's some of those places, but they abut property that Jamie Lee's family and him has had. So in review of those, I would be like, oh yeah, you just go down State Street and you take a left on McKee. He's like, we don't have those. I was like, what do you mean? Yes, we just found out it was State Street where his property abutted, but he's 116 his whole life on backside 39. I said, that's 39.
There you go.
That's McKee. And Webster, that wasn't Webster, that was the street behind 116.
Exactly.
It's so interesting. But the trip really, it's always been a very spiritual place down there for me, especially like I said, my whole adult life, I've been in very entrenched in birth and maternity care and all of that. So as I lived my life existence, every year I would be going. So, the meanings to it became deeper and deeper and deeper. Yeah. And this last time that I went was the first time where it really just felt spiritual. Like it really felt like I was doing the right things, that I was in the right place, and that, my purpose was I was doing the right thing. I just sort of had that confirmation, and I just kind of have to go with that. It's a scary thing to just relinquish and say, you know what, I'm gonna just keep doing what I'm doing. When on my Instagram page for a really long time, it's a scary thing to step out there, in my professional world, to step out there as a known face and practicing midwife at an institution. And I try very hard. I don't say no names and I'm not associated with it because I'm very cognizant of the fact that by me getting out there and saying, hey, listen, what you're doing is harming Black women. I'm very cognizant of the fact that, maybe my employment could be at jeopardy. I don't know.
Yeah.
But I got confirmation when I was down there, like, girl, just do it, whatever. Like, yeah, this is my face. I'm post-call. I had a breakout situation, so I'm not putting no makeup on. But listen, I don't care. I just no longer care. About these other things. We're in a juncture. We're in an emergency. And we're beyond like, okay, the planning phase. We're kind of like in action phase now. Like, what are you going to do? What's your strength? So I was working on like the podcast. As you can see, I could sit and I could talk for hours. I can. When people text, I'm like, I have a hard time saying these things, but let me talk with you. Let me speak about it. And so I wanted to put out a podcast, and I did that one episode, which is linked on my page, which I'm sure we'll talk about later. But I realized just in that one episode, I said, I can't do this. I cannot do this. That is a whole other job. I'm a midwife, one. I have a voice, and there are things I can do, but I'm not a podcast maker. I'm not a video editor. I'm not a, so she said, listen, I have my voice. I'll use my voice, and that's why, like, when I'm like, listen, what do you do? What's your job? Yeah. What is your skill? What are you contributing to this mess we're in?
And I love that. I love that you say that. When you talk about, you just received an affirmation and it was a spiritual thing. I've been having those same kind of things. I did not intend to ever have anything to do with birth. I didn't go to school and say, this is what I'm going to end up doing. I'm an educator by profession.
Yes.
And it was, to me, I call it was like a call. It's like, look, there's some things that you need to come, and there's some things going on. And I walked away from just being in birth and stuff for a while. I was like, I didn't know when I got into birth culture that it was going to be, I didn't know that it was predominantly white women now. I don't know what I thought it was, but it never crossed my mind.
Right.
Because I'm thinking like what my grandma and them told me. I had no idea that in my state, that that CPMs aren't licensed. Like, I didn't know. And I didn't know that that Black women were like really working hard to try to establish themselves in this new system that was in many ways disenfranchising in a whole other way.
Yes. There's so many layers to this. So many layers to this. Like, when you think about our birth outcomes and the way that traditional midwifery was a practice of, non-interference in a physiologic process, and then you think about how birth workers are blocked from, as was my experience. And people may, blocked, you had to do that. No, the struggle that I had was not a unique one. I had my own self-imposed struggles in terms of like children and those types of things. But like the educational struggles and the no, you can't come here. You need your bachelor's degree. All right, let me go get my bachelor's degree. No, you can't come here. You don't have birth experience. All right, well, let me go do this and try and get this. Let me work in pediatrics, and I come back. Can I work here now? No. Just the blocks and the blocks and the blocks. To circle back around on how that like literally affected once you get to be like a midwife, I just want to say, like, in this level or whatever, you could be like, finally, I got all my white man paperwork. I'm a certified nurse midwife. Can I come to your hospital now? Can I come to your hospital now and deliver babies? And finally, in my experience, when I finished doing my preceptorship in Rhode Island and still going back to work nights for 24 hours was the last time. Finally, y'all saw me busting my ass. I know you didn't want to help me. You said so very clearly that you don't take students. But finally, when I got my midwifery paperwork and stamped with your little white seal, can I work here now? You don't speak Spanish. Bitch. I'm leaving. Bitch. That's an example of how this institutionalization, y'all, at some point I want to be like, y'all fucking with me. Y'all really are. Did you? Give me my stuff. Give me the hell out of here. Give me my things.
Oh my gosh. Woo! I mean, it's so amazing. No, I want you to tell me about your podcast, because actually that one, I was trying to click it. Wouldn't click. I couldn't get it to tell me.
Yeah.
Tell me about.
Here's the thing. I don't know if that's going to be the final form of my being able to, I'm working on something with Google. That's my husband. I told you he looked like.
I know, girl. I know.
I'm working on something with Google where if I'm able to get someone to help me produce a podcast, I will gladly do it. It's not something I'm going to be able to do sustainably and do my line of work. So I'm looking for me right now, Instagram's my format. It's free. I don't have to do editing. I don't care about any of that. Now, if somebody in your audience is like, hey girl, I want to hear more of you, and whatever it is you do for your work, my voice onto your area, tell me. That's your strength. My strength is my voice and my job. Like, you know, so the podcast, it's linked on my Instagram page, which is Dr._midwife.
I could not get it to work though. I have to try it again. I kept trying to.
Really?
Yeah. So I'll try it again.
Right.
I'll try it again. The link just kept saying it wasn't going anywhere.
You know what? Here's the thing too. I'm just going to start telling people like, listen, whenever I have like my live discussions and conversations, shit, just find it on my page. Like I'll say relevant ones, you know, like that's just, I'm looking to do less work.
And honestly, you're quite entertaining. I mean, oh my gosh. I just sit there and watch like, oh my gosh.
You think you're like, she's a hot mess. She's a mess.
She is a hotness, honey. I love it because, you know, like I said, when I first saw it, I said, oh, who is this? This is a special one.
Bless her heart.
I'm not familiar, but something about me is drawing me to it. I hope you do continue to do that because I know that there will be people that if you know, what is it, Dr._midwife. I don't know when, nobody knows when you get off work. Nobody knows when. I've been using
those times and they've been consistent. So I'm like, listen, like my thing is like, listen, if you catch it, you catch it. If you learn some shit, you learn some shit. You know, like.
And you do the little pig, you like, you have 24 hours.
Yeah, because I'm not doing what do you think this is? This is a world of information. If you sit there and you choose to be willfully ignorant, that's your problem. That's your problem. I'm putting it out there. Share it. Like I used to be like, hey, I'm gonna tag somebody. I'm not tagging no damn body. Tag yourself. Tag yourself. You know, it's what do I do? What do I look like knocking on your door? Hey, listen. You know, you need to make sure that you're tuned into this information. You should make sure you put your post notifications on. No, you know all that stuff. If you want to hear what I have to say, log it in. Whatever. You know, type of. I got jobs to do. I got stuff to go. I got charts to fill. You know.
Yeah, look, that's what I heard on your live.
Don't be ignorant out here. Don't be ignorant out here. If I want to learn something about the LGBT community, if I want to learn something about Muslims, if I make a choice to learn something about a people and I don't learn it, all you gotta do is click a button. We got Google. Put it in there. You got to write it. The answer is right in your phone.
What would
my kids ask me that? Like I'm like, I don't know. I'm not 100% sure, but I guarantee you Google got the answer.
Exactly. Or can get you to the answer.
Yes, if you choose to.
If you choose to. So let me ask you this. So if your path to get to birth has been amazing. If you were talking to someone because I see it all the time, the people they say, I'm interested in, they put it on your lives. They're like, I'm just wondering about, I'm thinking about birth or whatever. What would you say to someone that's just that before, I mean, first of all, a lot of us birth workers say, okay, first of all, we didn't just start dying. We've been dying. Like you said, you were like, okay, we've been dying. But now they've decided to promote it. And I hate it because it's almost a place of fear. And every woman that I go talk to, a consult, it's like, oh my God, I'm so afraid. That we're dying. And I'm like, okay, we've never been treated fairly. And then I spend half the time talking them off this bridge, this ledge, like, but I hear that I'm like, die.
Yes. Not nice.
And that's not our, even looking at it from the Southern perspective, that's not our legacy. We've always known that it's been a hostile, antagonistic environment for us. And we equipped ourselves, for that. So, but what do you say? Like when you talk, I know there have to be people that are like, Dr. Midwife, Dr. Stephanie, Midwife Stephanie, what would you say? Where do I start? What do I do? I want to, you said before you were like, start with what you have. But for the one that's like, I really want to do something like in birth. And I just think you're amazing.
But I'll be my own amazing. What's your strength? What's your place in this? And if birth work is for you, what is your space in birth work? Do you want to be a doula? Is that what speaks to your soul and your passion? Do you want to be a midwife? What type of midwife do you want to be? Where do you want to practice? What do you vision for yourself? You need to understand these things because there's going to be different paths that you need to take to get to the place you want to be in the birth world.
Ooh,
okay. So if you want to be a home birth midwife, you may want to consider taking a CPM or a route. You may want to do that. If you're feeling like doula work is for you, you may want to find an apprenticeship, preferably a Black-owned and supported apprenticeship. You may want to look at National Black Doulas Association, okay? And you may want to look at what it takes to be certified and what that would mean. Look at, are you able to support your existence on this? What would it take? If you feel like you want to be, there's a midwife that I know, and when I say I know someone virtually, like you, I know you.
Yeah.
Okay. It's like mostly good humans that I know.
Yes.
And she is a certified nurse midwife, and she's going to medical school. She's going to become a surgeon. That's how she is going to affect change in that area. We need us everywhere. If birth work is yours, find out what is your niche in birth work. What is your job? You're right. What is your job? Everybody's not going to do the same thing.
I love that. I love that. I think that is, wait, did you tell me 12:30? Because of course I'm not editing, but I can't. I missed the
12:30.
Okay, good.
It's my initiated call, so
okay. Well, I'm sitting up here like I can't remember what she said, but since I don't edit,
Yep.
But I just want to let you know how much I love just that, even that whole dynamic. I love that piece of that part of what you're saying. I really appreciate it because I think that they're one of the things I teach a Sankofa Birth Ambassador workshop, and one of the things that I believe more than anything, and it is based in that whole context from Alabama, what I know when I speak to my great aunt, who's the last one of my mom's side, she talked about, for example, she said, well, one time with one of them, she has like 9 children. She said, well, one time the midwife didn't make it. And I said, well, and I was like, well, who helped you when you were waiting for the midwife? And she would say, well, your grandma would help me. My mom would help me, and all those things. And I think that sometimes we see, how can I say this? Like doula is a new thing. The concept of doula as a profession is a new thing. Before that, it was us.
Right.
Before that, it was us knowing our place and knowing that I need to help my sister. And I love the fact that you're saying, or my mom, or my daughter, or my niece, or my whomever. And I love what you're saying, because basically what you're saying is, go find your spot. Go find your spot. And I appreciate that, because I admire you so much.
I do appreciate that. And it's like, and it's not an easy feat to tell someone like, okay, I know you want different sort of guidance and different ways, but it's like, find your spot, what makes you comfortable. Do investigation. The internets, these world wide webs and these Instagrams, you will find your place on something that speaks to your soul, and a lot of times you don't have to go looking for it. It's going to be found in your own walked experience as whoever you are, Black woman, Caucasian woman, whatever, your lived experience. But if you're choosing to go into this line of work, right, I feel like I need to stop being so fresh. Like, if you're choosing to go into this line of work, you need to understand who it is that you're supposed, like, I can't. Because it's too long to explain. Just understand that this line of work is traditionally in the birth work and in the doula world, traditionally like more of a privileged white woman's role, and that's not really where the roots of it came from. And so now when we think about us being in a crisis, and just think about, if you're going into this doula work and you're a white woman.
Stop it. Just say it.
I'm so rude. I have to put it in a way, like, you need to be using your leverage. You have it. You need to use it. And if you don't, I don't respect you. I don't. And
that's the Stephanie I know.
Well, I mean, I just mean that I think that you have more work to do. I think you have a little more. I think you just have a little more work to do. It's okay. We all
so kind.
We got to start for something. But right now, I don't respect your ass. But but later on, when you get yourself together and start showing some Black folks on your page, maybe I can respect you, you know, things like that, you know.
Stuff like that.
You know, things like that.
You know, when I want comic relief, I go and see, did Stephanie do another live? Like, I appreciate you so much for your time and for your everything. So
I appreciate you having me. Honestly, it's been a pleasure. I can talk for forever. And
I know.
She's like, yes, girl, you can.
No, I mean me. I told you most of these are like twice as long as this one. And
I totally would. If I didn't have a prior we would just be right on talking.
I would just sit and wait till it's like, you got anything else to say? Nothing, you good? But I appreciate you so much. And for the fortunate women who are, for those women who are fortunate enough to maybe be in your area, would you tell them where you are and where you work? And then also just how can they connect with you? You know?
I'm like, I'm going to move my job sweatshirt over. Like, so I can be reached right now. I can be reached on a personal platform at Dr._Midwife. I am taking clients, you know, full scope midwifery at my practice in Providence, Rhode Island. I work for Women's Care, which is a midwifery practice in Providence. So I am taking new clients, but for the most part, if you just hear from my shenanigans and and whatnot, catch me on like my you know, my Instagram. That's my major platform. That's free, and I'm all for that. And you know, whatever. I love to connect with people, talk, conversations. There's so much that we can learn from each other. There's so much community building. Where in the past we didn't have these platforms, we didn't have that ability. Things that were going on in San Francisco, or things in the Bay, or things in New York, or Mississippi, or Alabama, we didn't have this ability. Now we have it. We have it, and we need to utilize it. So I thank you so much for having me. I look forward to seeing how this rolls out and going back and listening to it and being like, girl, you're a mess.
All right, because right now all your stuff disappears after 24 hours. You just,
oh, yeah. Like, get your ass in here. Somebody wants to sit there longer and then do it. I don't have time for that.
Okay, so wait, let me ask you this really quick. Do you do home births as well, or in your practice?
Right now, I'm in the confines of the institution. So I work out of a private practice. I do hospital births, but we do have a birth center there. I do respect the physiologic process. You know, we are certified nurse midwives. There are risk stratifications. You know, there is a criteria. There are certain things, but you know, if you want a low intervention birth, which includes like, well, see, you can get me going. Look it up. Look it up. If you want a low intervention birth, okay, then yes, and you live in the area, come see your girl.
All right. Thank you, Dr. Midwife, Dr. Stephanie Mitchell, Nurse Wife, Stephanie Mitchell, all of those above. I appreciate your time. You are lovely. You are wonderful. And I appreciate you. And thank you so
much for having me.
Yes. Mwah. You all, I'll put her information below. Make sure you reach out to her and check her out. All right. All righty.